Matters campaign. Thank you again for coming today. So as you know, we do a monthly mental health webinar focused on children's mental health. And since it is Mental Health Awareness Month, we are doing a bonus webinar. So thank you for joining us for this one with our partner and sponsor, Backpack. So I wanted to welcome you today. Today's session is going to be about the resilient mindset. So we spent a majority of the month talking about how we can support kids, and this is going to be a fantastic presentation talking about how resilient our children are and how resilient we are. So resiliency refers to the ability to adapt and cope effectively when faced with adversity, trauma, tragedy, or significant sources of stress. It is the capacity to bounce back and keep going in the face of difficult challenges. Developing resiliency is crucial for parents and partners as it helps you to manage stress and emotions more effectively, overcome obstacles with a positive mindset, maintain healthy relationships and communication during tough times, model resilient behavior for your children and partner, and recover from hardships to emerge stronger. Cultivating resilience takes time and practice, but is a valuable skill that can help you and your family weather any storm. By developing resilient mindsets and behavior, you'll be better equipped to handle life's ups and downs. So I'm super excited for this. I'm going to introduce our speaker, Jody Rohr. Jody Rohr is a passionate licensed master social worker dedicated to making a positive impact through her work. With a BA in Peace Studies and Government from Manhattan College, she brings a unique perspective shaped by her commitment to social justice and political involvement. Her journey led her to earn an MSW from the University of Maryland Baltimore School of Social Work in 2020, solidifying her decision to support vulnerable populations. Jody's professional focus lies in working with children and adolescents, particularly those with autism spectrum disorder, through early intervention programs and special education. Her holistic approach emphasizes the importance of addressing intergenerational cycles of abuse and trauma to foster healthier family dynamics and promote child development. Jody joined Backpack Healthcare to continue working with vulnerable populations as a pediatric psychotherapist. So thank you so much for joining us today, Jody.
Hello, and thank you so much for introducing me. I'm super excited to be here. Like Jess said, my name is Jody. I'm a clinical social worker at Backpack Healthcare. And I am super excited to discuss this amazing topic of resilience and how to cultivate a resilient mindset. So let me share my screen so we can get started. Can everyone see this okay? Okay, perfect. And so before we begin, I did design this webinar to be interactive and engaging. So I do hope you all feel comfortable sharing your insights, reflections, comments, questions, either by unmuting yourself or by typing in the chat. And then you can either, something's really itching you, we can discuss it in the moment, or we can wait until the Q&A at the end. And I do see Catherine has her hand raised.
Yeah, please. I want to know if there's any compensation for this work.
I'm sorry?
I want to know if there's any compensation for this work.
Did you say compensation?
Yeah.
Oh, no, this is just a free webinar that we offer, and we don't offer CEUs for it either.
Okay.
Okay, and so let's just get started. So in this session, we're going to dive into the concept of resilience and its significance in navigating life's challenges. We'll explore the benefits for parents, partners, clinicians, teachers, all of the above, providing tools to manage stress, maintain healthy communication, and model resilience for your loved ones. So we'll also have some things in here for parents and how to cultivate resilience for your child. Some of our objectives include, just understanding the concept of resilience, why it matters, the benefits of it, and then we're going to practice strategies for cultivating resilience and shifting your mindset. And then at the end, we will have additional resources, things that you can explore on your own. So already I have a task for you. I want you to think of a time when you faced a significant challenge. And to help you out, I have a list of categories here of challenges. And so while you're thinking, I'm just going to provide a couple examples for each one of these categories, just to, stimulate your brain, get it moving, and give you some ideas. And so typical events and transitions, that can include starting a new school, making new friends, or even transitioning to just a new grade level. Unexpected events can include experiencing a natural disaster or facing a sudden illness or injury. Individual and personal factors can include dealing with a mental health condition or overcoming a personal trauma. So surviving experiences like sexual assault, domestic violence, or childhood abuse can have profound impacts on mental and emotional well-being. And then social and interpersonal, would include adjusting to cultural differences. So, think about immigrating to a new country, navigating language barriers, but also experiencing discrimination. So facing prejudice, rejection, harassment. And then lastly, community and environmental factors. So this is one that usually surprises people because it's not usually typically something that we think of as really a challenge, but just more of that's the way it is, or that's externally. But that can be, living through periods of financial instability, economic hardship, and also even coping with the effects of climate change. So, environmental challenges like extreme weather events, rising sea levels, and ecosystem disruptions that can pose threats to communities' livelihoods, infrastructure, and well-being. So as you're thinking of, a challenge that you have faced before, whether it was in the past, maybe even something you're dealing with right now, or one that you anticipate in the future, I now want you to think about how you dealt with the challenge. And so I will I am going to look at the chat and see if anybody does want to kind of share, a challenge that maybe falls in one of those categories, maybe it doesn't, or if you want to unmute yourself. And so I'll just give you, a minute or two to kind of reflect on it. Okay, so someone said divorce of parents. Absolutely. So I feel like that would kind of fall under the category of, adjusting to a blended family. So that's like typical events and transitions. Yeah, unexpected events, hurricanes. So moving away from family. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for participating. Dealt with it by using my near supports like friends. So yes, that is literally one of the things that we're going to talk about for cultivating resilience, is using those external supports. You see job loss, flood, car accident, grief is a big one, house fire. Okay, awesome. And so I am going to continue. And so feel free to keep chatting in it. And I'm sorry if I don't get to it. But the reason I kind of asked you that question was because in all of those situations, whether you realized it or not, you were demonstrating some level of resilience. Obviously, how people deal and cope emotionally with stress and adversity varies from person to person. Some people are by nature more or less sensitive to change. A situation can trigger a flood of emotions in some people and not in others. But both of these people can be resilient if they understand what they're feeling and why. So really, we're not starting from scratch here. So I don't want you to feel like, okay, square one. It's really about using the strengths and the experiences, skills that you already have and have already used before, and just improving them, empowering them, growing them. And so I know at the beginning, we talked a little bit about what resilience was in the intro. But once again, it's that ability to adapt, bounce back from adversity, trauma, tragedy, or significant sources of stress. And it's being able to handle both the internal and external challenges effectively. So, next kind of part. Why does resilience matter? Resilience matters. So, like we said, resilience gives us the strength to bounce back from challenges in life. And those who develop resilience can tap into their strengths and support systems. This gives us the best chance to overcome challenges and work through problems. So these are kind of the different components, or some of the components for why resilience can be really important with yourself, with your family, in your community, wherever. So managing stress and emotions effectively, as parents and partners, life is filled with various stressors and challenges. So resilience enables us to effectively manage stress and navigate through difficult situations. Resilience also empowers us to approach obstacles with a positive outlook, viewing them as opportunities for growth rather than insurmountable barriers. And then thirdly, resilient individuals are better equipped to maintain healthy relationships and effective communication with their partners, children, and other family members. And the last one here is that modeling resilient behavior. So
Come on.
So how parents, respond to stressors is much more important than the stressor itself in determining the outcomes for themselves and their children. By demonstrating resilience in the face of adversity, parents and partners can teach valuable life skills such as problem solving, adaptability, and emotional regulation. So before we get on to now cultivating resilience, are there any kind of reflections, insights that anybody wanted to share or that I missed on my end? Okay, just wanted to make sure because I know that was a lot of information at once. Okay, so with cultivating resilience, I'm going to talk about the 7 C's model, which some of you may be familiar with, and then challenges and opportunities for resilience, and then actually practicing that mindset shift. So building resilience, does take time, strength, and help from people around you. You'll likely experience setbacks along the way, and personal behaviors and skills like self-esteem and communication, as well as external things like social support and resources available, will try to bring you down. And so resilience is not, the ability to fix problems. Instead, it's about tapping into inner strength to face personal and child-related challenges, navigate adversity, recover from trauma, and thrive within your family's unique context. So these are just some ways for you to do that, in your everyday life. So that could be by practicing self-care, building your support network up, finding purpose, and then embracing healthy thoughts. And then here I am just going to touch on the 7 C's of resilience. I wanted to provide this because I do think, if there's parents on the call that have children or even teachers with their students, because it is specifically a model for cultivating resilience in children. And this was created by Dr. Kenneth Ginsberg. And so he created this model, the 7 C's. And so I'm just going to kind of briefly go through them. Number 1, competence. So encourage children to handle challenging situations independently, allow them to make mistakes, and learn and make mistakes and decisions without immediate intervention. Number 2, confidence. So cultivate children's belief in themselves by encouraging them to try new things and praising their efforts, even in the face of setbacks. Number 3 is connection. So nurture secure and healthy relationships with family, friends, and the community. Number 4 is character. So that could be by instilling integrity, responsibility, a sense of right or wrong in children, and guiding them to make wise choices and challenging decisions. And then we have contribution. So teach children the value of making positive contributions to their surroundings, instilling a sense of purpose and meaning. Encourage empathy and kindness towards others. And then number 6, coping. So equip children with healthy coping mechanisms to manage stress effectively and navigate difficult situations. And then number 7 is control. And that's to empower children by demonstrating how their actions can influence outcomes in their lives. Encourage them to recognize their ability to make choices and take initiative. And so if this is also something that you feel like you would benefit from, get ideas, want to go more in depth with, there is a resource at the end of the presentation that you can click on, and we'll have all this outlined for you. And then I do see a hand raised from Kelly.
Rising. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you. I'm looking at the 7 C's of resilience, which I do appreciate. I feel like there's room for culture and C because it gives greater context to someone's cultural perspective in terms of how they're able to cultivate resilience and deal with each of these that have been outlined here. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually gonna write that down because I think that should absolutely be added. So, you know, I kind of am just using Kenneth's model for this, but I think that culture would be, you know, I think that is a big one. And so, yeah, I really appreciate you sharing insight on that, right? Because that can be something too that, you know, as things evolve, you know, the 7 C's could turn into the 8 C's. So thank you, Kelly. And so now we're going to go on to challenges and opportunities. So really what we're looking here is, you know, the challenges of cultivating resilience and then how we can turn those into opportunities. So fear of failure is a big one because that can hinder individuals from taking risks and stepping outside their comfort zones. Negative self-talk and self-doubt can erode confidence and resilience. Lack of support, such as limited access to a support network or resources, can make it challenging to cope with adversity. Some individuals may struggle with adapting to change and uncertainty, making it difficult to bounce back from setbacks. And feeling overwhelmed by stress and responsibilities can deplete resilience and lead to burnout. So I know burnout a lot of times is associated with, you know, your career, schoolwork, but it also can be with just trying to, you know, cultivate change and motivation in your life. Because sometimes, you know, we could be working so hard at one thing and you get so close to resolving it, and then all of a sudden 3 more things fall on you. So it's like that domino effect. So you can absolutely too experience burnout when trying to cultivate resilience. And so how do we turn these into opportunities for growth? So we can practice self-compassion and self-care to counteract negative self-talk. We can seek support from friends, families, or professionals when facing challenges. We can learn from setbacks. So we can reflect on the past and identify lessons learned. And then building resilient skills. So this can include problem solving, emotional regulation, and stress management techniques. And I think this one is really important because, as we talked about in the 7 C's and with modeling resilience for children, it's hard to model those things if you don't feel like you have those resilient skills yourself. And so, I always say like resilience is an ever learning process throughout your whole life. So there's always room to learn more things, cultivate more resilience, which also a lot of times happens from, the more challenges that you might encounter. And so you might find a new way to deal with something. And then that way too, you can then model those things for your children or students or clients. And then the last thing is the mindset shift, which is in bold because this is now going to be our next kind of thing, going to be more activity based. And so moving on to that, I do just want to take another moment and see where you all are at, if there's anything that came up before we kind of get into my little quiz.
Jody, there were a couple questions in the Q&A section. I can read them out to you. One was, what are some skills to help build connection and confidence with children? And the other, do you have tips on parent burnout and resilience? So those are just two things that came up.
Okay, so the first one was confidence and connection in children.
With children. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and is that, or maybe is it just general, or is it specifically like for a teacher with building connection or a parent?
It was an anonymous question, so if anyone feels comfortable raising your hand or just speaking up and clarifying for Jody.
Well, I mean, I think honestly, in general, I know a big one is just even spending a lot of quality time. So you'd be surprised how much just like, we're expressing your emotions kind of freely, having really good communication, but just playing a game together. A lot of that quality time. I know with when I did a teen group with parents of teens, that was a big struggle that they were having, was connecting with their teens. And so one of our suggestions was, just go sit in their room for like 15 minutes, 20 minutes sometimes, and just kind of like, insert yourself into their world. You don't have to say anything, just kind of observe, see what they're up to. Because you'd be surprised, it might be awkward at first. They may not really be saying anything. But then after a while, we found that, when parents would start doing that, their teens would start, well, my mom's sitting in here, so I might as well, ask what she thinks about this or gossip about something. And so that's what I would say for the first one. And then what was the second one again?
Do you have tips on parent burnout and resilience?
So for that, I mean, I think there's definitely so many ways that you can combat, I guess, that burnout, if that's kind of what they're asking. Obviously, my favorite to tell my clients who are parents is self-care. So I will say your homework this week is to spend 1 hour doing something that you really enjoy, that isn't connected to chores. If you like cooking but you have to cook every night for your family, sure, spend an hour cooking if that's what you enjoy, but make something for yourself that is not for providing food for the whole family. So I'll, do little things like that. I think too, a lot of parents, when they're going through difficult things or a family is going through something, I see parents who then enroll their kids in therapy. And a lot of times I kind of, it gets to a point where a lot of times I'm working with the parents and things like that. And I'll even suggest like, you should get a therapist, like, just to have somebody to just talk through stuff every week or every other week. There's so many support groups out there too. There's a lot of free resources I'm now seeing too that are a lot more accessible for people. And so things like that I think could help with burnout. I know there's like a ton others, but and then was there any other questions?
No, that was it.
Okay, awesome. Oh, and then I do see a hand raised.
Go ahead, Tondaleo.
Hi, I just wanted to say with my 4-year-old grandson, how I built connection with him because he had experienced some difficulty early on in his life, I used facial expressions. I used gentleness, my facial expressions and tone and how I spoke with him. I use words like I understand, phrases like I understand. And what do you think, drawing his opinion and just asking him how he felt about certain things. And that was a huge connection, for us. And it kind of put him at bay where he can settle down and know that I'm a trusted person that he can feel comfortable with. And we made a great connection, we've already had a connection, but a greater connection, because of it. So I'm a big advocate of gentleness and kindness, which kind of lines up with compassion, but I think it's more so of how he's reading, because he reads my facial expressions and tone quite a bit. So that helped me for anyone who's interested.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's the thing too. So I'm glad that you shared some insight, because I think too, when people ask questions and stuff, I know that, there are a lot of people in this room that probably have 20 years more experience than I do. So also feel free to share, your own insight reflections, because even I'm sitting here, I wrote down everything you just said, because I think that can be, I'm learning from that. But that is absolutely, it sounds like, you were doing a lot of validation. And especially at such a young age, it's hard for kids to express emotional regulation with language. They just haven't developed those skills yet. And so I think, the facial expressions thing stood out to me, because, that is sometimes a lot of ways how they're first learning what sadness is associated with, what anger looks like. So absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, so if there's nothing else right now, I will move on to our mindset shift. So for this, we have two things up here: success and failure. And so I know, some of this is kind of cliche or easy, but it's just kind of, practicing, in our everyday lives, how we can shift our mindset to be more resilient. So in terms of success, or be, but would we say, success is proving you're smart or talented, or stretching to learn something new?
Are you asking, Jody?
Okay. Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Did I not make that clear? I don't think I did. I'm so sorry.
I would say,
Yeah. Yeah, the stretching one. Yes, absolutely. So, stretching to learn something new. So, of course, feeling smart, talented when you achieve something, it is going to make you feel resilient and awesome. But it's also, stretching to learn something new for success. And then failures. So, once again, you could say, I'm not growing to my full potential, or I'm not talented or good enough. What do we think?
The first one.
Yes, I'm not growing to my full potential. And so another one with this that I found interesting when I was kind of doing some research was, someone said, you also could say I failed, but in parentheses, but it's not defining of my character, or it doesn't resemble any part of actually who I am. But yeah, I failed at this. So, there's also still, you don't have to be just a completely, ray of sunshine 24/7, but kind of thinking about too that it's not defining of who you are, of your character, or what your success will look like in the future. Awesome. So we're going to keep going. Challenge. So do we want to see this as an opportunity for growth or paralleling event? Oh, okay. And I'm sorry. Now I'm realizing that all these chats were coming in. So you guys were probably saying things before. Awesome. So yes, opportunities for growth. And so sometimes even with that, when you are reading something or when you feel like you're presented with a challenge, sometimes it's just as simple as just replacing that word with opportunity and just seeing then how it feels to say that. Okay. And then bad situation. So is this permanent, universal, so affecting everything? And is it due to personal causes? Or can we think of a bad situation as temporary, specific to that bad situation, and due to external causes? Yes, thank you guys so much for participating. And then the last one, interest and motivation. So only when I have good results or when I challenge, using challenge again, challenge myself to grow. Challenge myself and grow. Yes, so challenging yourself and growing. And then this statement. So I feel good when I try hard or when I don't make mistakes. Yeah, and so with this one too, I know it does feel really good when we don't make mistakes, but when you do make a mistake, just try to even just break it down and think, okay, but did I try really hard? And if so, then try to feel good about yourself because you literally did everything that you could do in your power and with what you have. Okay. So this is another activity. So now this time, I want you to think about actually reframing these statements into something that is more resilient or that is exhibiting more resilience. And so with these, I'm not good enough to meet my child's needs. I'm always falling short. So if you want, you can just put yourself even in that situation and think, how could I say this differently to be more positive, to embrace those healthy thoughts, to focus on my strengths. And so for this one, you can write in the chat or you can unmute yourself and kind of and give a reframed quote. And then I do provide one, but there is no wrong answer. So I'd love to hear different ones that people come up with. Okay. So I am trying my best and my child and I have a strong connection. Love it. I always try my hardest for my child. So absolutely. I am learning how to best support my children and I am doing my best. Yeah, so these are all super amazing. I've done a lot of good things as a parent too. Oh, it's a marathon, not a sprint. I'll strive to continue to grow. This is challenging. I will keep trying strategies with him so he is successful. Yeah, I love all these. And so the one that I provided is parenting comes with ups and downs, but I'm dedicated to providing love and support to my child, even in the face of challenges. And then we have another one here. So my partner and I always argue. Our relationship is doomed to fail. So now this, if you are in a relationship right now or married, significant other, think about if you felt this way, if you have felt this way, and how you could reframe it. And then I do just want to read a couple other ones from before. Sometimes it seems I fall short of meeting my child's needs, but I will continue to thrive and work at this together. So yes, teamwork. I missed the mark on this one, but I learned my child prefers this approach. My relationship has experienced challenges, but we can overcome them together. Yes, absolutely. So I will say with this one, I was practicing this presentation with my mom. And so I had her reframe this one. And her example was, well, we need to come up with some negotiation tactics, or, why don't we write down our common interests? And so I was like, okay, yeah. But I also was like, you're still that, still trying to also incorporate like feeling positive, and also, but feeling like you have that trust and commitment with your partner, that like you can overcome this. So sometimes even just like reframing little language like that. Arguing is a part of any relationship. We have the tools and dedication to make this work. Yeah, so I think that's almost what the reframed one that I put says. So yeah, conflict is a natural part of any relationship, but I am committed to communication and growth. We can overcome our challenges together and strengthen our bond. And then I do have a few more. So this might be a parent to their child. You're just not good at math, like me. How might we frame that? Okay, and then I also see my partner and I seem to disagree a lot, but we are committed to overcoming our adversity. Okay, and then math is a challenge for both of us, but we can figure it out together. So using that support, modeling, working together, doing it, overcoming the challenge as one. And so what I put is math can be challenging, but with practice and effort, you can improve. So with this one, it's really, using that support, external resources, like you could, get tutoring, speak with your teacher. I know when I was growing up, my dad was really good at math, but my mom wasn't. I was never good at math. So whenever I had issues with that, my dad was the one that's where he was able to, model his skills with me. But my mom was really good at English, so that's what she helped me with. But she was always saying how bad she was at math, and I think I almost just kind of thought, well, it must be got it from my mom. So it's like funny how we connect with those different statements. Okay, math is a challenge for me, but my children's love for math always seems to help me see the brighter side of the mountain of numbers. Yes. Oh, let's find out how much fun math can be. Numbers are all around us. Where can we find them? I'm going to copy and paste that one. For my really young clients, I feel like that's a cute one. It's okay that you have a hard time with math. I'm not either, but with help and support, we can see improvement. Awesome. Once again, thank you guys so much for participating and engaging with me. So I have one more in here. This is one that I hear a lot with my young ones. Or even honestly, I've heard it even with some of my middle schoolers, high school. So when they've had to move, or when they're transitioning from elementary school to middle school, or middle school to high school, they'll say things like, I'll never make any friends in this new school. Everyone already has their own friends. And I think this also can just be such a frightening experience for some children, especially children who may already be struggling with making friends and building relationships. And so, they may have just gotten to the point where they feel like, okay, I have 2 friends in the class, and now all of a sudden they're packing up and they're moving. So it can be really scary. And I think with this one too, it kind of points to that self-esteem that we can kind of grab from, and confidence, because, sometimes people may feel that way just because they don't have a high confidence in themselves that they will be liked. And so it could be them, internalizing some negative self-beliefs that they have already about themselves. Yeah, middle school is a great time to meet people who are different from you. I know I am going into a new environment, but I will get to meet a bunch of different people, right? So you look at it just like, this is an opportunity to make new friends, see, a different environment. Yeah, you have a lot to offer a new friend. So that too, I think, is important in these cases of also just, building up that confidence in your child's ability to, make new friends, and also that, that they are loved and cared for by the friends that they have already established, and that even if they move, they can keep in touch with them and still be friends with them. Okay. And so I'm just gonna put mine up. So starting at a new school can be intimidating, but it's an opportunity to meet new people. Let's brainstorm some ways to connect with classmates and make new friends. So you could join, a club at the school, a sports team, extracurriculars. Sometimes they even have like support groups in the school. I don't know if it's become more of a new thing, because I feel like I've had a couple kids now that even have been able to join support groups within their own school, of like a social skills class, or I think even there was one of kids who their parents recently divorced, like all these kind of specific things, which I think is really cool. Okay, and you've met new friends in new environments before. So, right, drawing back on those previous strengths and times when they overcame that challenge before. And then I do see a hand raised.
It's me again.
Hi.
I have a
I'm
question.
so glad you're coming back.
So with my 4-year-old, he's my grandson, he's not in school yet. So we go out, we go to the library, we go to play dates and things like that, or to the play area in the mall. And sometimes, because he's very friendly, but sometimes the children don't want to play with him. So there's a group of kids who are already there who have, kind of got to know each other and started playing, but then they're not very welcoming of the new child who just entered the play area. So sometimes he feels a little sad, and then sometimes he just kind of, goes on and play by himself or until another child comes in. But I can see sometimes the sadness on his face, and I say things, like, oh, it's okay, we can, they'll come around shortly, or something. But how do you handle that? Like, what should I say to him? That's one that kind of stumps me.
Yeah, that's a hard one. And also, like, please, anybody else that has insight, has experiences with their child, or has any ideas. I feel like it's hard, because I feel like for me, I would probably go maybe too overboard, I feel like, and um interact with them and play a game with them, and maybe even try to facilitate, conversation if another kid comes in, which I feel like for a 4-year-old, I don't know, some people would say, you have to let them independently navigate those things, but
Yeah.
I feel like it's hard when, if they're really sad, and it could be an opportunity to go like, oh, let's introduce, because for all we know, the other kid could be feeling really shy as well, and maybe just doesn't know how to approach your child, but wants to.
Yeah. I see all the information in the chat, and I'm definitely taking it down. And it is hard, Christina, because sometimes he's sad, but he jumps in and he'll play by himself, and then he'll keep trying. So he does try in his own way to try to reinsert himself back into the group. But it's hard to look at sometimes, and sometimes I'm kind of stumped with what to say to him. So in lieu of that, I'll just give them a big hug and say, somebody will be around in a few to play. You'll have someone to play with in a few, you know, and I just kind of leave it at that. But I appreciate the feedback. I really do.
Yeah, and then I do see Janice said, it sounds like he is resilient when he plays by himself and then plays
Yeah.
when a person comes along, teaching him how to ask the group if he can join. So yeah,
I
you
like
can,
that.
do some role playing together.
Yeah.
I don't know if he plays with like action figures or dolls, you can kind of create a little scene yourself. But also,
This is
maybe
great.
saying, that it's okay if somebody doesn't want to play with you. They're, give them a compliment. It's, they're missing out.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Because when we're done here, we're going to get a chance to put it into practice because we're going to the play area. So
Okay, great. No,
thank
yeah,
you.
absolutely.
Thank you
John-
so much for the questions. We have about 10 minutes left for the webinar, so we're gonna hold questions, and Jody has graciously offered to stay on for a couple of minutes if folks have more questions, but keep it going in the chat, please. Thank you.
And with that being said, this is actually my last slide, so I can just kind of quickly go through this. I just wanted to provide, some types of support for building community resilience. And so, informational support, that can be guidance on parenting issues and recommendations, such as finding a pediatric dentist. And then we have emotional support, so affirmation of parenting skills and empathetic, non-judgmental listening. And so ways you can do that in your community is just by modeling that with others, with other parents of maybe the children that go to the same school, with your partner, with the family, at the park. So just kind of even just spreading that mindset. And then I also did put spiritual support. So if any of you are spiritual, that can be through offering hope, encouragement, and spiritual guidance in your community. And then lastly is that instrumental support, which, is practical assistance, like transportation, financial help, or job referrals. And so this is the end here. And so, I do encourage, if you want, to think about one action that you can take, even if it's something super small, to start building resilience today in your everyday life. And then I will go back to this if you want to read it, but I do want to just show you the resources real quick. The ones on this side with the web and the book are ones that I used for some of my research. And so I did put hyperlinks in there if you wanted to explore those topics more. But on this side, I wanted to provide the Resilience Resource Center because it just had so much good information, very specific about resilience and different, and so many different services and guides. And then this one I thought was interesting, this everyday health assessment. I took it off, took like a couple minutes, and it was free. You just answered some questions. And it was kind of helpful. It kind of told me, what I could improve on, what I was doing really well in. So yeah, that resilience score as well. So I will go back to kind of just the conclusion. And so if people want to share, any more insights, reflections, comments, or if people have questions.
Hi, this is Kelly Dominique. I have another question.
Mm-hmm.
So first, I wanted to say thank you for putting on this webinar today and sharing the content that you've shared with us. Secondly, I'm just thinking about the grander scheme of resilience and that interplay with culture.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm thinking about is particularly with the African American community, due to, as we might all have learned some of the unimaginable adversity that we face with the horrors of slavery and other systemic injustices. One of the things that I've been working towards in my own resilience journey is this false narrative of being like superhuman or a superhero and always having to be strong. And I think a lot of times we equate being resilient with having to be strong and managing, some of the challenges or just the judders that we experience and that our kids experience. And so I always wonder, I'm very curious about resilience, which is why I joined today, but I'm always curious about the messaging that we're sending, you know, to youth about being resilient. Of course, they need to be able to adapt to changes in their life, good, bad, or indifferent. But I can also appreciate like meeting them where they are and not encouraging them to always have to be strong and malleable when certain things come up. And so I feel like culturally it's a fine line that we are forced to navigate, especially members of people of color from that community, is being able to wave that white flag to say, today I don't feel resilient, I don't feel strong, I've been resilient but I'm kind of worn out, I'm experiencing burnout. So I just wanted to share that. And to me, it's like a duality that exists when you think about resilience cross-culturally.
Yeah, Kelly, I really appreciate that. I think that could be, I feel like, an entire workshop in itself about kind of culture and resilience. Because I know, it's one of the things that was just mentioned as one of the challenges that people face is that discrimination, prejudice, immigration, like all these different things that, especially in our country are very prevalent. And so I think that actually taking that and kind of making a whole thing out of it that focuses on that would be really powerful. And I think that I could benefit from that a lot, and learn from those, especially, a lot of my clients are people of color. And so I do feel like there are certain things that me as a white woman are not able to grasp in that sense. So I really appreciate that.
Real quick before we get to Tandaleo, there was another question from an attendee. How do we help make the mindset shift within ourselves or our children?
So I'm sorry, could you say that one more time?
How do we make the mindset shift within ourselves or our children? Advice on how to shift your thinking.
So I think that one too is like if other people have insights, ideas, or examples that they've used. I do feel like for me, and something that I use in my as a therapist is celebrating really small successes, or that to the clients they feel are small. And like really hyping it up. I've had clients say, I'm just not making any progress. I just don't know how to, I feel stuck. And I'll always respond to that as, but you are doing something because you're sitting here right now on the other side of the screen talking to me and you're showing up. And that in itself is doing something and is working towards that change. I think it also, it really does vary person to person. Maybe there's different things that work for you. So different techniques, replacing language, mindfulness, journaling. You could do a thought log. Those can sometimes be really helpful where you're really kind of taking down every time that you do have like a negative thought and then kind of walking yourself through a little channel of how to reframe it, or how to prove it wrong. So what evidence is there for this negative thought that I have about myself? And then challenging that. I hope that answered your question a little bit, or if other people have some insight as well on that one.
I have a thought. I think that part of this journey for ourselves is to meet ourselves where we are to know what season we are and slow down and take a moment to just look in the mirror and really allow yourself to know where you are, what season of parenting you're in, what season of life you're in, and extend yourself grace, and to be able to not try to do it all or be it all to everybody, and to also build your own network of support. Just the same way that we look for systems of support around our young people, the question is, who do we have among ourselves to support one another?
Yeah, absolutely. I always say everybody's on their own timeline. And so you don't have to, deal with everything all at once. Just tackle it little by little. If you're having struggling getting out of bed every morning, just wake up 5 minutes earlier and then maybe try 10 minutes the next week. So just take those really small achievable steps in reaching, what you ideally want for yourself.
I think it's also important to remember that resilience isn't something that you learn and then you know it. It's something that you have to continuously work on every day.
Yeah, it's that ever, all life learning process.
Any final questions for Jody before we wrap up? I will state here, if you would like to stay on an extra few minutes after we close out, Jody has agreed to take any additional questions. So keep that in mind. But I will take this opportunity right now to say thank you, Jody, so much. Thank you for this awesome
Thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. Just by all the interaction and feedback we've gotten in the chat, we know that this was really impactful for our attendees here today. So we want to thank all of our attendees for joining us today. You'll receive a follow-up email with the link to the recording of the presentation and a survey asking for your feedback on how we can continually improve the webinars for you. Join us for our next webinar, The Rainbow Connection, Strategies to Foster Belonging for LGBTQIA+ youth. That will be next Thursday. I'm sorry, not next Thursday, next month, June 20th, 11:30 to 12:30, hosted by Backpack Healthcare, again with Jody Rohr and Maddie Dominski. We want to share a huge shout out and thank you for Backpack Health, who's our 2024 superhero level champion and sponsor. Backpack Healthcare aims to provide personalized, accessible, and inclusive mental health care to the most vulnerable and underserved children nationwide. If you haven't already, it's not too late to become a champion with our 2024 campaign. You should see some information coming in the chat soon on how you could still join. We look forward to working together to support the well-being of families and communities across Maryland. If you have any questions, please reach out to us at info@cmhm.mhamd.org. So once again, a thank you to Jody. And if there are a couple people who had additional questions, feel free to stay on. But thank you so much for your time today, and we'll see you next month.